right. We're doing open calls tonight, and we got our friend Mike on the line, and he's got all kinds of good paranormal stuff he's going to share with us. So, Mike, the floor is yours, and we are here for it.
Alrighty, yes. Well, so my first story is, well, I'm from Northern Illinois, so, I'll get right into it. In my little town, we got a little town, so like anytime anything happens, the news is blowing up, people know what's going on. So I guess one day up in Chicago, like a car got stolen or something. And I guess there was like 5 guys in it, and there was like a high speed chase going down south. And they wound up exiting on, I think it was Arsenal or River or something like that. So they got off, and they wound up flipping the car like on one of the side roads. And I mean, this is like a country area. I mean, it's like nothing but cornfields, or it's like cornfields or like thick woods where like the water's like up to your knees. So 3 of these guys got caught. And then we had, I mean, I got up at probably, 6 o'clock in the morning for work. And I was like, what the hell is going on? I mean, we got EMS, you got emergency response. They had helicopters all over. I'm like, whatever is going on is serious. I was hitting up my dad. I'm like, hey, check the news. Something serious is really going on. I mean, we got helicopters, police. We got shit. We got some serious shit going on. I went to work, they're like, yeah, they caught these guys. One guy was hidden out in a barn, and then the other guy got caught in someone's house in Wilmington, and somebody actually got caught in Wilmington, and somebody like blew a hole through a wall with a shotgun and said, hey, man, come out right now. And they're like, you're going to shoot me. Boom, blew a hole through the wall and said, if you don't come out, I'm going to blow your head off. Like, get out. Jesus. And that's how they caught the one dude. So then my mom, she knows some people in the, like the emergency response crews, like the disaster people. And she said there was 7 guys that said they were out in that little thicket. I mean, you're talking about like the woods drop off from the road about a good 8 feet. So there's about, 2 feet of water. And they were going through it. And at this time, there were some dry spots, it was a lot of like, ruffled wood, but some water. And she said that there was a group of like, 3 guys with AR-15s. They're looking for these guys, and they're like going through there, and they're looking for these guys, and they're like, hey, I see a little movement ahead. And they're like, let's go. That must be our guy. So they rolled up, and they're like, hey, that guy looks really fucking big. And they're like, and they're keeping it quiet. They're down. They're doing a thing. They're moving. And the guy's like, this guy is supposedly armed. And they're like, all right, we can't play this anymore. And they're like, hey, blah blah. They raise their arms at him. They're like, hey, blah blah blah. I guess they address themselves as police or whatever they were. They said this thing turned and just started booking through the woods. And they said it looked like a guy that was 8 foot tall in a ghillie suit just ripping through the woods. They said it was just like boom, 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 right through the woods. And they were calling in. They were like, we got a suspect on the run. We got a suspect on the run. All this stuff. And they said about no more than a few minutes later, they're like, no, we got the suspect. He was in someone's house a few miles away. And they're like, no, we had this big mug. He was running through the woods full speed, blah blah blah. He was a monster in full ghillie suit and everything. And they're like, nope, we found one guy in the barn, we found another house. And they said this guy had to weigh 500 pounds, been about 7'5".
That's
And
massive.
They said, you're talking about, even in the dry spots, you're talking about 5-6 inches of water, maybe a few inches here and there. But they said it was some muck. They were like, you're not running through that. They said this thing just hauled off and just boom, 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 boom. They said it was out of sight, in just like seconds. And they said it was humongous. They said it looked like two guys in a ghillie suit.
That's crazy.
I love it. It's so wild. And it had to, I mean,
And
the way
it
that
was one of the things. Now listen to this. On Facebook, it came up as, some rangers spotted some people spotted a Bigfoot in Wilmington. And then boom, it all switched. It got taken off Facebook. It was all over that, they found the two guys. They were hidden this and that. They were hiding in a barn, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, my mom talked to the guys and they said, this son of a bitch. The one guy was like 6'3". He said, this son of a bitch was a whole foot and a half taller than me. And he said, he ran through the woods like it wasn't woods.
Yeah, like it was something that he was used to, sprinting.
Yeah, they said it was totally quiet. They were going through. They said you could hear the helicopter way off in the distance, a couple miles off. And they said that you could hear the helicopter, but they said they're going through, and they seen it. They said 200 yards, and they're coming up on it, and they're like, oh, it looks like a couple of guys hiding under something, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, hey, that thing turned, and they said they raised their arms at it, and then it just went boom. It was like it just shot into action and was gone. They were like, if we wanted to shoot it, we wouldn't have shot shit.
That would be so terrifying to be out there because you're already on edge. You're out after a suspect who's supposedly armed and stuff, and then you stumble right onto a fucking Bigfoot.
Yeah, Shaquille O'Neal that just runs through the woods like a freight train.
Oh yeah, and I'm telling you, I've been out there. I fish. I don't really hunt. I can, but I don't really do it. But I go out there. I used to live in Vietnam with my dad. I used to catch crocodiles for fun. So I've been out there, and even in Vietnam, they had legends of Bigfoot.
Oh yeah, it's everywhere, man. Like our terrain down here isn't too much different, from how you described in Joliet, and we have tons of sightings down here. Like my oldest son swears up and down that he saw one when we were driving back to his mom's house one day. Like he still talks about it wide-eyed, like this legit took place. Like I saw this thing cross the road.
Oh, 100%. I worked, like I said, I worked on the railroad with a lot of guys. We were in kind of like Kyle. I was in charge of cutting down trees and brush cutting and all that. So you talk to the guys about all these things, and we had some guys there. There was these three brothers, real country guys. I mean, they'd go up to a shack way up north in Wisconsin, and they even told me a story. They don't believe Dogman, but they were like, yeah, one day we were going to go get some beer, at 3:00 in the morning, and they were like, we were coming back down the road, and there was a wolf, literally from its tail was at one line and its nose was touching the other one. They said it had to be 12 feet long. I said, dude, that's not a wolf. And they're like, oh yeah, it was. I said, was its neck way higher than its buttocks area? And they're like, oh yeah, probably about a good foot. But they were like, yeah, it was built up, it was real muscular. But they said it seen us, it looked at us, and it kind of just stopped and walked off. And I was like, dude, go online and look at a wolf. Wolves have a straight back. I was like, I'm telling you, you've seen a Dogman. I'm like, Dogman ain't 9.5, 10 feet from the butt to the head. I mean wolves.
Right.
Nobody wants to believe it until it gets up on its back legs and walks away.
Yeah, and I was telling them about it, and they're like, no, this and that. And I said, dude, a lot of people, think Dogmen are just wolves until they stand up.
Yep.
And I said, there's no way that, because they were driving a Hummer, and they said that the thing was longer than the width of their Hummer. And
that'd be a big fucking wolf.
And I said, I don't care if it's a timber wolf. I said, there's no wolf that is longer than the width of a Hummer.
No.
Yeah.
And they were, yeah, I don't know, man, blah blah blah. And then the one, because I called him out on it, the one was like, yeah, one day, he said, I was driving on the back roads of Joliet out near Shanahan. That's where there's a lot of like cornfields. He said he was there and he was just chilling. Him and some friends were smoking a little weed. And then I was like, oh God, he's gonna pull the whole, maybe I was smoking. And he said, dude, I seen this thing come running out, and he said it ran right in front of the car, one bound, 1 foot in the middle of the street. The next foot was out in the cornfield, and he said 8.5 foot tall, but he said there was a pack of about 12 coyotes following it. And I said, well, I don't know any stories of a Bigfoot doing that, but I said I know coyotes will kind of pack up with the Dogman sometimes.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Oh yeah, it's pretty common with the Dogman that they seem to, especially coyotes for some reason, it's almost like they lead the pack.
Build like a hierarchy.
Oh yeah, I mean coyotes out in our area, they get ballsy. I get out there. I mean, I'm not a hunter, but I get out there 3 a.m, going out. I'll find a place on Google Maps and I'll go out there by myself looking for a place to fish. I have literally seen one coyote chasing down a buck in the middle of the woods. So I mean, coyotes, they got some balls.
Right.
They'll get after it. But yeah, I guess to get to my Dogman story, I guess you can't really call it my Dogman story, but it is. I was there. It's my brother's Dogman story.
Okay.
So we lived in Joliet, kind of close. I mean, it's on the border of Shanahan and Minooka. And if you don't know anything about Minooka, it's full of Indian, like folklore. I mean, the school is called the Manuka Indians. So, I mean, I guess you could say it's kind of meant to be that there's going to be some dogmen in the area.
Right.
So, one day my brother is taking out our dog. My dad had a lot of exotic animals. He had a lot of money at the time, so we had a lot of exotic cats. Like my indoor cat was a lynx.
That is awesome.
Yeah, and we had a boar as a pet named Porky. Yeah, he was a 300-pound boar that I used to ride around. So, we didn't really think much, So, I mean, one day my dad was like, my dad is Tennessee. He's a Tennessee guy. I mean, like in his eyes, if it's living, you can shoot it and kill it. So one day, my dad said, "Hey, so and so," talking to my brother, "take the dog out." And we're living on an abandoned farm. It was a farmhouse. I mean, full of acreage. It was meant to be, tilled and everything. It was meant to be a farm, but my dad didn't do anything like that. He just turned it into a trucking company. So it's just a giant open area. I mean, like as far as I could see, it was just open land. I mean, it was so clear. Like I'd look out my window and there'd be deer 4 or 5 feet from my window. So, and I mean, there was deer fucking everywhere. So one winter, it was a pretty bad winter. I mean, we got some pretty good snow. So my dad was like, "Hey, Dan, let the dog out." So my brother's like 17. He smoked at the time. This is over 20 years ago. So the way my house was the front door was always locked, but the back was how you came in, but because that's where you parked your cars. So my brother walked around the front of the house. He's smoking a cigarette. He's walking the dog and all that shit. Next thing you know, my brother blows through the back door. Just boom. He literally slips, falls, slides, closes the door, and he's like, "There's a fucking werewolf outside." And at the time I'm 5, and I go, our dog is named Yoshi because at the time Mario Kart.
Right
I go,
on.
"Where's Yoshi? Where's Yoshi?" And he opens the door and the dog comes sliding in. And this is a dog that you almost had to pick up and carry into the house. He did not like being in the house. I mean, this dog came sliding on his ass through that front door. He wanted to get in so bad. And my dad comes through and he's like, "What the fuck is going on?" My dad said, and my brother's like, "There's a fucking werewolf in the front of the house. There's a fucking werewolf. I swear to God, there's a werewolf." And he's freaking out. And my dad was a very brutal type of guy. And he walked up and he popped him in the chest and he said, "Shut the fuck up and tell me what the fuck's going on. What do you got going on?" And he was about to tear up in the face. He said, "There's a fucking werewolf." He said, "I'm telling you, Dave, there's a fucking werewolf out front." And my dad was like, "Man." And my mom's like, "What's going on?" He's like, "These fucking kids are out of their mind." So my dad goes and looks out front. And, you can't see shit. By then, he can't see shit. And, I mean, there was a shit ton of snow on the ground. I mean, we almost had a foot by this time. So, My dad's like, it's all good. Let's go to bed, blah, blah, blah. My dad didn't want to hear any of it. My dad was like, I mean, my dad's a big guy, 6'5", 280 pounds. He was like, I don't give a fuck what the fuck you saying. There ain't shit out there. So the next day, his friend was coming over, and he got stuck coming up our driveway. We had like a 500-foot driveway, so he got stuck. So my dad comes out there in his, in his dually truck, and he sees all this blood out in the field. So he tells the boys, which my mom has 5 boys, and he says, "Boys, dig my friend out. I'm gonna go over here and look." So he looks over there, and there's this, kind of like a little pit in the kind of in the field, and there's, a bunch of blood, a little bit of skin of a deer, but there's no fucking deer. So my dad just kind of ignores it, and they kind of go about their business, and my dad eventually, they couldn't get him out, so my dad kind of towed his friend all the way up to the house, and my dad said, "Hey Dan, come up here. What the fuck happened last night? I gotta hear this." He said, "Dave, I kid you not, because there was a tree in the field that we cut about 9 foot high." He said there was something squatted down in like a linebacker position. And he said, I didn't think anything of it. He said, I just saw a shadow. And he said, I saw this fucking thing stand up. And I saw all the deer go stiff real quick. And he said, I'm having a cigarette. I'm not thinking anything of it. And he said, out of nowhere, he said, I'm looking close. And he said, now this is the part that kind of threw my mind for a loop, even till today, because I don't believe in glowing red eyes. But he said, I saw glowing red eyes. And he said, this thing dropped down and started scooping itself almost like a gorilla. You know how gorillas run with their forearms?
Oh yeah.
He said it was like a gorilla running, but he said it was like a jaguar pounce. He said, man, it covered 150 yards in no time. He said it was like boom, 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 boom. And he said, dude, I saw the hair on its back. He said the hair on its back had to be 7 inches long. He said, I saw it jumping the whole time it was chasing these deer. And he said it was like boom, 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 boom. He said it was like it was using its front arms to propel itself forward. And he said it was just grasping the ground and just shooting itself forward. And he said, I started fucking running. And he said, the next thing I know, I saw this thing curled over something. He said, I just fucking ran inside. And I was like, I'm fucking done. He ran inside. The dog ran inside. And my dad was like, well, what the fuck did it look like? And he said it looked like he said I couldn't see because it was so dark, but he said it looked like a bear with grizzly arms, if that makes sense. He said it looked like it had dog back legs, grizzly bear arms, and it ran and it had a bear head. He said that's the only way I can describe it. He said, but dude, it ran faster than a grizzly, a bear, a wolf. He said it was just like boom, 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 bam on the fucking deer.
I'm picturing it in my head, and it's terrifying the way I'm seeing this thing just launch itself.
But yeah, he kept on emphasizing. He was like, dude, this thing was standing up, and he said it was just so creepy how it just squatted in a millisecond, like ass to heels, and then shot. And he said it started running like a gorilla, like it was grabbing the ground with its front hands, and then pushing off with its back. And he said it was just going boom, 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 boom. And he said it fucking had that fucking deer. And he said, I fucking ran like a motherfucker. But he said, I could see in the shadows of the night that he said it had a fucking wolf head.
It's like, it's almost like the perfect ambush predator. The way it's so powerful, but it can move so quick and just pull itself so fast. That's terrifying.
Me and that brother, we don't talk. We haven't talked in years. Just, family's falling out. But I talked to him some years ago, and I said, dude, I was like, I'm interested. I mean, this is before me even, probably about 6-7 years ago. I didn't really even give a shit about this. I was kind of burnt out on the Bigfoot shows and Loch Ness Monster, but I had to ask, dude, because it was something so crazy to me. I said, dude, like, what the fuck did you see? And he said, it was like a bear that had fucking gorilla arms. And he was like, it like ran like a gorilla, and it had gorilla arms, but he said it was like, it had a snout like a fucking wolf. And he said, dude, and this guy, my brother, major bullshitter. I'll tell you, he is a major bullshitter, but he's also one of those guys that tries to make himself sound way cooler than he is. And he will try to make a story sound like it's not bullshit. But he said, dude, it had fucking glowing eyes. He said, and I mean, this is, 15 years apart. He said, dude, its fucking eyes were glowing red. And he said that hair on its back was like spike hair. He said it was like spikes out of its back. He said, dude, it was fucking crazy.
I love it. In my head, I would think it was a werewolf too if I saw it.
Oh yeah,
that would be the first thing that popped into my mind. And
he told me, he was like, and I kind of, I hit him for detail, and I was like, dude, is there any way it could? And he was like, Mike, which my brother's 5 foot, 5'10". I'm almost 6 foot. And he said, dude, because we were on a cornfield, so there was no, the field was level. He said, dude, this thing's shoulders were literally even with my collarbones. He said, when this thing was standing up, he said it was a foot taller than that stump, and that stump was a tree that we cut. We cut for some firewoods, and it was about 8 foot tall, because it was about a foot and a half taller than my dad's truck that we towed it away with.
That's so wild.
Dude, so this thing had to be about 8.5 foot tall.
And you do hear from other accounts that people who have seen the Dogman, that the glowing red eyes or glowing eyes, yellow eyes, green eyes are kind of a commonality in these accounts.
Yeah, 100%. And I am. I don't know what you would put me as. I guess I'm a 110% believer, but then I'm like a skeptic. I'm like, where does glowing come from? I believe in eye shine, but I'm like, where does glowing come from?
That's the same thing. That's the same thought process I have. Is I was gonna ask. I was like, I wonder, because you hear, especially the red eyes. You hear glowing red eyes a lot, and if there's no light shining at it, like you're saying, why do the eyes glow? Why?
Yeah, that's my thing. And I was also gonna add, there's no way that there was eye shine from our house, because this is back in 1999, and we had 2 backdoor lights, one on each side of the door. And I mean, they're not LED. I mean, they're not powerful. They're just lighting, you know, the back door entryway. So, and my brother, well, not my brother, but I mean, just where my dad came out to see this, where this happened. I mean, it was easily, 300 feet from the back of the door. And so we're like, this makes a little sense. I mean, even the deer didn't have eye shine.
Yeah, and if the deer didn't, then there'd be no reason that it would.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm telling you, we had deer out there big time. I mean, we had right by our house, we had two giant oak trees that we cut down. One was about 10 feet from the house. The other one was about 15. We cut them down so that if there was a storm, they didn't fall on the fucking house. And they were hollowed out. And we just called them the feeder stumps. So anytime that we had leftover food, we'd just go out there and pour all the food. If there was, my dad owned a trucking company. So, sometimes, with trucking companies, you had trucks that spilled over and you got thousands of pounds of food that were going to go to waste. So you had to take it in. My dad had, 10 freezers, but if shit's going to go waste, my dad was like, I'll feed it to the animals. Fuck it. So, I mean, we had food all over that place, and, we had deer. I mean, we had 10-point buck, literally 10 feet from the house.
It almost makes you wonder if the Dogman started to associate that your property with food, because you're constantly bringing in all of his prey to feed there. So it could have been easy pickings for him.
And that was another thing that, as an adult that I thought, because we had, like I said, we had that giant. It was a female boar. She was 300 pounds, and there was times we had a dog house for her right at the front door. There was times when it got cold, and it wouldn't have to be that cold. Whenever food got a little bit scarce, she would not leave that her little doghouse.
Like she had a sixth sense that something was after her, maybe.
Oh yeah, I mean, dude. I mean, it was unreal. I mean, I would have. I was an animal lover. I'd go out in the woods and. I'd be out in the woods all the fucking time. I'd see shit all the time, and my dad would give me just big scraps of food and be like, "Yeah, go put this in the animal pile, this and that," and we would have tons of feral cats come around. I'd go and feed the cats, and they'd be coming around, and then boom, the cat would show up literally every day at a certain time, and then one day, gone.
Creepy.
Never seen again. And and we live so far away from people. Like our closest neighbor was the highway, so it was like something's taking the animals.
Yeah. That was my first thought when you said you were feeding them. I'm like, man, you were just opening a buffet for whatever the hell this is out there.
And I'll tell you one thing else that's creepy. And I talked to my dad because at first, when I first brought this to my dad, probably about 4 years ago, the whole Bigfoot, this and that, he was the guy who was like, that fucking bullshit, Loch Ness monster, bullshit, everything was bullshit. I mean, you couldn't tell him anything was real. And then Dogman stuff came up, and I thought, this is bullshit. I was like, a fucking werewolf, fucking bullshit. So I started listening to stuff, and I started listening because I worked for the railroad company doing, trees and brush cutting. So you do countless miles of brush cutting in a tractor. So I'm like, okay, I'll listen to this. Finally, I got to the point where I'm like, this sounds like people are really telling some real stories. So I told my dad, I said, hey, listen to about 5 hours of stories and tell me if you think they're lying. And I sent him some stuff, and he was like, I think there's something here. And then I told him about I reminded him about my brother Dan's story, and he listened to that. And then ever since, he's been a big believer. And I was telling him, I'm like, I really think there's something here, man. And he's been hooked on it since. I mean, he's not hooked on all the paranormal stuff like I am. I've listened to every single one of you guys' podcasts, but he's more of like Dogman, Dogman, Bigfoot, Dogman, but he's more on that. But after listening to it, he's a big time believer. And whenever you start getting into this and you start looking at the similarities, there's too many there to ignore.
Oh, for sure. Some people are seeing something is what it boils down to. There's something out there.
And it's not something like, oh, it's a coyote that's 100.
Yeah.
It's
10 feet tall.
There's nothing that they can say in like zoologically in America that is causing these appearances.
No. Like even a wolf coyote hybrid, it's going to make a bigger coyote, but it's not going to make, like Steve said, a 10-foot tall coyote. It's not happening.
No, it's like you mix a tiger and a lion and you get a liger.
Right.
It's not going to walk on its back legs and have massive
it doesn't
arms
change
and
the anatomy of the creature. It just doesn't work that way. And the fact that, like Steve made a good point, that it just kind of like with all that feed and everything, bringing all the deer in, it just made a buffet for it. Because one of the last Dogman stories we did, the guy was talking about his deer. They got clipped by the Dogman, and then deer seem to be a pretty reasonable choice for a lot of, like, even Bigfoot. I've heard stories of Bigfoot chasing deer.
Yep. And I feel like all major predators are opportunists, and if you've got a spot where you have all of these prey animals congregating all the time because they know there's going to be food, eventually they're going to know that there's also food, and it's going to be a common stop on their path.
Oh, 100%. It's one of those things, and a lot of it has to do with location. Like, I've always lived in very rural areas. Like, even though I lived in Joliet, I lived out in the middle of fucking nowhere. You could scream as loud as you wanted to. Nobody's going to hear you. The closest thing we were to was the highway, and you couldn't even hear the semis driving by.
It's just a prime spot for a large predator to hide.
And dude, the deer, it was unreal. There were so many deer, but one thing that was weird, you never heard a coyote. There was never a coyote anywhere.
That is weird.
Almost like it knew that it was they knew that they were in somebody else's territory.
And I'm telling you, because we had these stumps full of food. And I'm not talking about like, oh, here's some bread and here's some that. No, I'm talking about, oh, My dad had a full load of beef and chicken go bad. Oh, so here's a full load of steaks and chicken and gizzards and this and that, and or on Thanksgiving we'd have leftovers that were gonna go bad, so we'd go out there. My dad would just pour the whole pan of grease and shit, everything, the bones, everything, right into the middle of the chicken stump. We had shit tons of raccoons. We even had a pet raccoon. We had raccoons, possums, squirrels. I mean, never once did you ever hear the yipe of a coyote.
Yeah, that's bizarre. With all that, with all the easy pickings right there, you would definitely draw them in. I mean, it would just be too easy for them to resist. But like Steve said, the fact that there's a more dominant predator in the area, they're going to stay the fuck out.
Oh yeah, and I mean, dude, the deer, there was ungodly amounts of deer. I mean, it was like my dad bought this land, and it was a farmer's land. My dad was just like, "Well, I'm not a fucking farmer. I got a trucking company. I'm gonna use it like a trucking company." And he put in a bunch of gravel roads, and we had open land where you could see where there was corn stalks in the ground as far as the eye could see, and you could see deer everywhere. I mean, if you walked out 2 o'clock in the morning, you could walk at the back door and circle the house, easily see 40 deer. I mean, there was deer everywhere. I mean, we even made it like a bit of a game. We sometimes WWE would be on late. My dad would be like, "Yeah, Stone Cold's on. Let's get in the truck. We're gonna drive out to the warehouse and watch WWE. Let's take the spotlights out." And we drive out in the field. I mean, you just see deer left and right, but never. And I remember I asked my dad about this. He said there was never a coyote in sight.
Yeah, that is strange.
And it is very strange because in my dad, we moved to Minoka, another very, very big country area. I mean, even though it's a little subdivision, it's like a little subdivision in the middle of a cornfield. Cornfield on all four sides, going out miles. You'll hear. I used to sleep with my window up. You'd hear coyotes all night long, yipping and yowling, and hyping, and all. You'd literally see coyotes running through the streets chasing rabbits. But on this property, no, none of that. I mean, there was never a yip, nothing.
That is bizarre, man. It's crazy. I think
that was another thing. I don't know if it has to do with anything, but my dad never let anybody hunt the property. I don't know if that was the question, but we had people come on. Oh, you guys got 100-something acres here. There, blah blah. Come on, there's my dad. My dad had people that would offer, like, "Oh, come on, you guys got mini ponds. It'd be great hunting." My dad would say, "Nope, no hunting here." My dad was a hunter, but he was also one of those people. My dad really loved nature, so he was like, "Nope, no hunting. We're not killing anything here."
So I mean that would even lead credence to the fact that it literally didn't have any predators at all.
No competition.
It didn't have to worry about getting shot by a hunter or anything. It pretty much had a safe area that it could do whatever the hell it wanted and not have to worry about anything.
Oh, 100%. I mean, even my dad was one of those guys. He didn't bother the land. He wouldn't go out in the woods. I mean, my brothers would go through the woods to go fishing, but my dad had a strict policy. you throw back what you catch, or you're fucking eating it. And my dad he'd make them fucking eat it. So they which was mainly carp. So they were throwing everything back. So I mean, yeah, there was no hunting. Fishing was catch and let go. I mean, it was a very strict, like, nothing on this property dies.
Makes you wonder if your dad knew something that you guys didn't.
He actually got the property from a friend, and I would know from my dad because at that time my dad didn't really care, and I've known my dad since. But my dad is just one of those. My dad's one of those really country guys where nothing is sport. If you take it, you eat it. If you don't, you release it just as you got it.
It's respectable.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, yeah. As of now, my dad's really big into the LBL, and my dad's like, well, what everybody needs to have is a 50 caliber so they can blow this motherfucker away.
Not even gonna fuck with it. Just
no, put her down.
Yeah, my dad is a 110% believer in we need to blow the Dogman's ass away.
I mean, it's reasonable enough thought, I suppose.
Yeah, he's it's funny. My dad is the biggest animal lover you'll ever see of any kind of animal. But even Dogman, he'll hear a story of a Dogman that real or fake, you never know. Some of these stories seem a little exaggerated, but he'll be like, they should have let that Dogman live, blah blah. He was doing no harm. But then on the other hand, my dad's like, they should have blown his ass away.
Oh shit.
But yeah, that's all I got as far as Bigfoot, or I mean Dogman. I don't have any Bigfoot. The only Bigfoot thing I had was that in the beginning about the people seeing it in the woods.
Yeah, right on. Well, we appreciate you calling in and hanging out with us tonight.
I mean, the only thing I could leave you with is I've had one thing I've had is I guess you would call it a levitation experience.
Well, that's interesting.
Yep, let's go.
So I know you guys are familiar. I've listened to your show about being paralyzed.
Yeah.
In your sleep. So I've had that happen to me a few times. My first time, I was 9 years old, and I lay on my stomach my whole life. I can't sleep any other way. And I woke up one day, face down, 9 years old, and I was swimming, trying to get somebody's attention. I was literally suffocating on the pillow, but I was swimming, and I could feel my arms flailing, and I was flailing and flailing and flailing, and I'm there, and I'm going, and I'm screaming in the pillow. Because I'm literally suffocating, and the one thing that saved me was as I was screaming, the word God came out of my mouth, and boom, it was like I was released. It was like somebody jumped off me. But while I couldn't breathe, it was like I had somebody with their knees between my shoulder blades where I couldn't move. I was like swimming, like I was screaming, swim, and I mean, I'm not talking about like, oh, you have a dream where you feel like you're drowning. I was awake. My face was in the pillow, and I know I was awake. And I mean, this was no dream, 1,000,000%. I could feel my arms hitting the pillows and the sheets, and I was swimming, I was screaming. And as soon as I was as I said, God, boom, it was like my head just shot off that sheet, and I was like, like I got that big gasp of air, and I was like, oh my God, like, and I was 9 years old, and like I talked to my mom about it, and my mom didn't really know much about it. And my dad is one of those people where if he ain't heard of it, it ain't a thing. So I was like, well, I'm kind of shit out of luck here. So I was like, all right, fuck. So I didn't really have much of that happen, but as I got older, it started happening a little more. So I got a little more, into my faith. I wasn't raised religious. My mom and dad were both, Christian, but they always talked about it, but we never went to church. So I guess you could say I kind of learned it on my own, and it was one of those things where like I'd be there, and I'd wake up, and I'd just be like, my fucking eyes are open. I can move my fingertips. I think you guys probably have similar things. You guys probably can like move like a finger.
Yeah, it's like you're not asleep, but you're not awake.
Yeah, it's almost like you've been drugged, and you're like, come on, come on, come on. It's a very helpless feeling.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. Is that you just can't do anything.
Yeah. So you're like, well, this is fucked up. So one day came, and I had a really, really bad. I noticed that this shit would happen if I was in a very, very negative headspace. Like if I broke up with a girlfriend, or if I got into a big, big fight with somebody. So one day it happened. I got into a big fight with my brother. I was mad. I was pretty pissed off, and right before it happened, I was downstairs, and I seen a shadow, which my dad had a bird, a huge bird. So we have, a bird feeder and all that. I see a shadow, and I see the bird feeder come off the wall in the shadow, and then I see it fly across the room and hit the wall. And I go, what the fuck? Like, I literally seen this happen. It levitated, and it flew and hit the wall. And I'm not the type that lets things bother me, because I'm of the belief, if it ain't on earth, if it ain't living, it can't kill you. So I went and put the thing up, and I went and got in bed. And I got in bed, and I'm sleeping. Nothing, no bad dreams. I wake up, and I see like this dark figure, and the room's pitch black, but like you see a figure blacker than the room, and I'm like, and I see it, and I can't move, and I'm moving. I'm trying to move, and doing everything. I'm trying to blink. I'm trying to like do little things. I'm thinking maybe if I can get my fingers to move, I can pinch myself to wake myself up. Finally, I just take a deep breath. I'm like, I pray, and I wake myself up. So I'm thinking, okay, that's done. So I roll over in bed, and I'm thinking nothing of it. I fall asleep again. Who knows, 10, 15 minutes later, boom, same thing happens. Fall asleep, wake up. I can't move. My eyes are open. I can't say anything in front of me this time, but I know something is behind me, and I'm doing everything I can to turn over. You would probably think, why the fuck would you want to turn over and see it? I'm thinking, well, either it's gonna scare me to wake me up, or at least I'm gonna fucking see it. So I'm doing everything I can to turn over, and finally I wake myself up and I turn over, and boom, my pants are hovering in the air and it drops them as soon as I see it. Those pants were my sweats that I took off right before I got in bed.
I don't even know. I don't even know. That is wild. I don't think, man, I don't even know, like.
I'll tell you one thing that has got me through everything. All I did, you guys are a fan of fuck this, let's go back to sleep. I just grab my Bible and put it on the same pillow that I'm laying on, and I go right back to sleep.
That is Kyle's go-to.
That it is.
Back to
That's
sleep.
what I do.
Man, that is wild. I've never heard of, like, I guess I have heard of object levitation, but that is so really fucking weird.
For me and my brother got into a big fight. My brother was not I wouldn't say satanic, but metal rock, heavy metal rock, and me and him got into a big fight, and I was like, fuck you, go to hell, motherfucker. And I got in bed, and I went upstairs, took my hoodie off, and I had a t-shirt and sweats. I took my sweats off, and they were literally at the bottom of the bed. And whenever all this transpired and I turned, those sweats that were at the bottom of the bed were hovering at my back, and then they dropped at the second I seen them.
That is so wild. That is first off creepy as fuck, and second, man, that is just, I don't even know. You hear a lot about, like, these kind of experiences stemming from traumatic incidents and being in, like, negative headspace. It almost makes you more susceptible to whatever this phenomenon is. Like, a lot of people that experience it have had.
Yeah, it's almost like a succubus. Kind of like it feeds off the negative energy.
Like it knows you're in a vulnerable headspace, and then it just works its way in and does whatever the fuck it wants.
I feel like as I'm not gonna try to sound like a know-it-all, but I feel like we all have some kind of energy around us that if we're extra negative, something is going to draw to it.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
For sure.
And, if we're extra positive, it might push some away. It might try to draw some closer to make it negative. But I feel like whenever you're negative, you're going to bring something. You're going to bring something there that's going to try to draw off that.
Yeah, you put out those vibes, something's going to hear.
100%. Yeah. So it was one of those things where it was like, okay, I know you're here. So, but yeah, I definitely know the shit side of it. I mean, I've been there, I've seen the lowest sides of everything. I've been locked up before, and I learned a lot inside, and I learned on the inside, whenever you get out, the negative is always there, and it will draw you down if you don't have something to bring you up. I mean, like I said, you have a bad dream and something's bringing you down. I put the Bible on my bed, on my pillow, and I sleep just fine. Sleep like a baby.
Bring some positivity into the scenario.
Oh yeah, I sleep with my Bible from jail right at the head of my bed. I kid you not. I could be going, have a bad dream, think nothing of it, have a few more bad dreams, pull that Bible down. Don't even have to pray, just put it right on the pillow. Fall right back to sleep like a baby.
It's always good comfort to have.
Yeah, and I was never the type to believe that. Never did until I went to jail.
Yeah, I can see how that would change your perception on things.
Yeah, and I mean it's helped a lot,
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah, I mean I'm gonna be the first person to say, nope, Bible doesn't fix all your problems. I'm not that guy. I'm not gonna lie and say that the fucking Bible fixes everything. Nope, you gotta fix your own shit.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
You gotta fix your own shit. But I will say, the stuff that's out of your hands, it'll help.
Yeah, I could totally see that. It helps you cope with what you can't control.
100%. You can't sit here and say, oh, I'm having a bad day. I'm just gonna sit here and play cards with myself. No, you got to get out there and do it yourself. Praying about it's not going to help you. But you get out there, you take care of yourself. It works hand in hand.
Right. Absolutely.
So, well, yeah, man, I'm a big fan of your guys' podcast.
Bro, we appreciate it a lot. We appreciate you calling in and hanging out. And
yeah, I mean, I got turned on to this when I was listening to it was years ago, listening to Vic Condiff's Dogman, and then I started listening to other people's stuff, and then I was listening to it wasn't Tony Merkel's show, it was the Bigfoot one.
Oh, Sasquatch Chronicles?
Sasquatch Chronicles, and then I got into the confessionals, and then I got into Paranormal Roundtable and all that stuff. And then I was listening to you guys, and I was like, man, some guys from Illinois, they got some stuff going on. And I was like, they're gonna be playing some stuff from Illinois, and I was like, man, I'm hooked.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear, dude.
Plus, I was a delivery driver. I mean, when I found you guys, I was a delivery driver.
Right.
I was in between jobs, so I was a delivery driver. So I mean, and I delivered, as far as Springfield. So I was driving, 420 miles a day. So I listened to you guys like 3-4 times a day. So I listen to every podcast, sometimes twice, so I was like, man, yeah, they got some good shit,
Oh, we appreciate that, dude. We really do.
Yeah, I really like it. Yeah, it's a good show.
It's awesome to hear. We're glad we can keep you entertained and put out some quality shit once in a while.
Yeah. I hope my experience was something for you. I know I
for sure
talked a little extra, but
that's okay. No problems. No problem at all, bro.
Yeah, I felt like if I don't take this time to talk, I ain't gonna get another.
Yeah, you never know. Like I said, we're trying to open we're basically open anytime we're recording. People are more than welcome to always call because we'll answer. Like, we have no obligation to not. So, but we're glad that, I mean, we've had you reach out, the dude before you, and then there's somebody else who's tried calling tonight. So the response has been great. And it's cool. It's cool talking to people who listen to us and people with bizarre fucking stories. It's really it's awesome, man.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is one of those things where, I've always been, intrigued by hearing people's stories, but I was like the last person to ever ask.
Right.
So, whenever, I'd be in I'd travel with some guys from a railroad and, I'd put on something and, they'd put on something like Bigfoot, I'd always ask them, no, man, what do you think about? Everybody's answer was always the same. Hell yeah, I think Bigfoot's real. I go, what do you think about something like a werewolf? Oh, no fucking way, man. And I'd just be like, listen about 3 or 4 hours of some podcasts of, some legit guys, fucking police officers, judges.
Right.
Some people talking about their encounters, and you tell me if you don't believe it anymore.
Right.
I mean, you can't tell me that you believe that something that's 10 foot tall, hairy, looks like a fucking human don't exist, and you're going to tell me that there's something that looks like a wolf that don't exist.
Right. Exactly.
And I mean, it's like, you got the Mothman. I mean, we got the fucking recently we got the Mothman in fucking Chicago.
Yep.
No telling what's going to happen there. I mean, we're probably going to have a fucking another 9/11.
Let's hope not.
But yeah, it's a good platform. Really talking to you guys. You guys are really cool. Yeah, I love the platform. You guys, even whenever you guys are talking about something where you don't have a guest on, or you don't have all that, you're giving like you give all the topics, you give all the info, you give a good lowdown. I mean, there's times where I'm like, oh shit, I never heard of that. I got to look it up on my own. I'm on YouTube for another hour and a half looking at it.
Yeah, that's pretty much how we are. Steve will throw something at me, and I'll be like, "Fuck, I never heard about that." And then I start looking into it, and then it just evolves from there.
Down the rabbit hole.
The rabbit hole.
Yeah, dude, I got a cousin that is a Freemason. I'm picking his brain. I'm like, dude, what's up with this New World Order?
Yeah, no kidding.
If you find out, make sure you let us know.
Yeah, I live where I live. There's literally a half mile down my street. There's a Freemasonry, I guess, lodge.
Yeah.
A picture of it today, and I sent it to my cousin. I said, "Have you ever been here? Like, what's the story? I want to know." He looked at it. He didn't answer, and I'm gonna get to the bottom of it.
Boots on the ground.
I'm like, shit, I'm almost ready for an initiation just to see what's going on.
Well, if you infiltrate it, make sure you live stream it for us.
There you go.
Damn straight.
Well, yeah, it's about that time. We're going to wrap it up here. Thanks for hanging out with us and sharing all your encounters with us.
Yeah, we appreciate it, dude.
It's been dope.
Yeah, man, I figured, I'm from Illinois. I thought it'd be good to share with you guys. I mean, I've always thought, okay, I'll go to Dogman. I'll go to Sasquatch. I'll go to Paranormal Roundtable, Confessionals. And I'm like, these guys got a call in line from Illinois. They're gonna be the ones I want to go to.
Hell yeah, repping the ill side. Well,
That's right.
Yeah, we're about at that time where we gotta wrap it up. So, thanks again, Mike, for hanging out and sharing 100%. All your stories, brother.
Yeah, thank you guys. Big fan. I'll definitely be listening to you guys. You guys have a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Stay safe out there, my guy.
All right, thank you. Have a good one.
Yep. Later on.
Bye.